In this video, we're going to start out by reviewing the three types of joins that we've covered before. We're going to go over an inner join. We're going to do some outer joins, left outer, right outer, and full outer. And we're also, we're not going to talk about cross joins. I'm just going to remind you what they are. Remember, a cross join is when we join every row with every other row from another table. There are certain places where they're useful, but generally we don't use them too often. So we're going to do some examples of inner joins and outer joins just for a quick review before we get into using graphical tools to do our joins. And we're going to start out by looking, do this. I'm going to select the first row from the person.person table. I'm also going to select the first row from the person.person phone table. Okay, now this isn't a join. This is two different select statements. So when I run them, I'm going to get two result windows. Okay, so here's our first table, the person.person table, and you can see the first entry there is Ken Sanchez. And we see some things about him. And in this one, we see a phone number and a phone number type ID, and the last date it was modified is kept in both of these. So we got to ask ourselves, do these two tables have a relationship? And if they have a relationship, what is it? What's it based on? I don't really see, at first look on this, we don't have like a field that just says phone number ID or anything like that. That's an obvious foreign key pointing to this table. Okay. So what do we do if you're not sure? Well, we can do a diagram. So we're in a little bit more complicated database than we were back when we were using the sample DB, which was much smaller. So let's go in here. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say new database diagram. I'm going to take the person table. Let's see if we can find the person table. And the person, that person phone. There it is. So I'm going to hold my control key so I get both of those tables. I'm going to click add. I'm going to add it to this diagram. I'm going to close it down. And we can see that they do have a relationship. Okay. And what's the relationship? Let's take a look at the properties over here. I right clicked on it. On the relationship line, open the properties window, tables and column specifications. And we can look over here and we can see that in the person.phone table, the foreign key column is the business entity ID. In the person.person table, primary key is the business ID. But those are, you look up here and it says this is a primary key. We can see a little key next to it. And the business entity ID is also a primary key. But a key can be both. It can be a primary key and a foreign key. And in this database example, we see that a lot. This business entity ID is used all over the place, generally for people and business names. So all our different tables, many of them are joined together based on the business entity ID. Another good way to see that, click the ellipsis here, and we can see it on here. Foreign key, person phone, the person table on business entity ID. So the primary key table is the person.person table's business entity ID. The foreign key table is the person.phone business entity ID. So that's what we're going to do the join on. Okay, and we could have seen that on our query back here. I mean, there only two columns have a match, right? Business entity ID and business entity ID. They match up. But I guess there was a possibility phone number type ID logically doesn't make a lot of sense, but they do match. So if we're not sure, we can always go to the diagram. All right, so let's construct a query. I don't want to save my diagram. So diagrams are a quick tool to do that. So let's do a query based on these two tables. I'm going to select And notice I'm putting this on a line because these can get pretty long. I'm going to get the person dot first name, and I'll put a comma. So I'm not putting these all on one line, just to make them fit a little bit better on the screen, especially because I'm using such a big font. We're going to get the last name. We also want person phone dot phone number right here. Those are the 3 columns that I want to get. Two of them are out of the person.person table. One of them's out of the person.phone table. Okay. So we need to put that in our from clause. We're going to get them from person.person and we're going to do an inner join on the person.person phone table. Based on person business entity ID. Isn't autocomplete great? I don't have to type that big word. Is equal to person phone business entity ID. So we're looking for for rows that the business entity IDs match. All right. So I didn't write each one of these on their own line, but we still have all of our clauses. And let's go ahead and run this. And then we can see each person is matched up with their phone number. Remember, people sometimes have multiple phone numbers. That's why the phone number isn't kept in the person table. It's kept in its own table, because if you look at Kim Abercrombie, she's got 3 different phone numbers. And remember, we have that phone number type that we saw in our initial query. That phone number type probably signifies, one of them is probably home phone, one of them is cell phone, one of them might be work phone. So she has 3 numbers, and you can see several people in here have more than one number listed. And there's a lot of them. All these people in our database, we've recorded all their phone numbers. So there is a ton of results there. All right, that got kind of long. How do we shorten this up? Well, usually what we can do is give a table an alias. So let's call the person.person phone table P. Actually, we're going to call that PH. We'll call the person.person table P. And then up here, instead of these really long names, we can use our table aliases. Which makes our query much shorter and perhaps easier to read. Okay, still works the same way, but now we've used table aliases, and we probably could put some things like this one could probably all go on the same line now and be a much shorter and easier to read, right? I can put that up there. I could even put that on the same line and still have plenty of room, even with my big fonts that I'm using for this video. Put this up on the from line. Get a more traditional look to our query there. Select, from, and on clauses, each on their own line. Let's go do an outer join now. So that was an inner join. Let's do an outer join. Let's look at I want to look at sales. Let's go to our diagram real quick. Do a new diagram. I want to look at sales customer. So let's find the customer table from sales. There it is. And we'll find sales order header table from our sales. So I'm going to hit the control key, get both of those tables and add them in. And we can see that there is a relationship between those two tables. Click on this. We have a customer ID here. We have a customer ID there. There's a good chance that it's going to be those two columns that join the tables. But just to be sure, let's go over here to our diagram. Or let's go over here to our properties for our column specifications. I'm going to go ahead and clip the ellipsis. So from the sales table, from the customer table, it's customer ID, and from the sales order header table, it's customer ID. So those are the two columns we want to join on. Customer ID exists in both tables. Let's go back to our query. We're going to select. Now here's something that might save you some time. I'm going to do a select, but I'm going to start out by typing my from clause. So I'm going to use sales.customer. I'm going to call that C. We're going to do a left outer join with sales.sales order header. Autocomplete is great. And we're going to abbreviate that to SOH for sales order header. Okay. Now when I come up here to do my select clause, I can start using my abbreviations, and my column names come up really quickly now. Do SOH sales order header. Let's look at the order date. So we're getting a list of customers and when they ordered. That's 08. So that's a little hint. Type your from clause first. Sometimes helps you get things out quicker. And we're going to join those on C.customer ID being equal to SOH.customer ID. Oop, I selected the wrong one. And we'll execute that. So left outer join says we're going to get all the entries for all of our customers, even if they never had a sales order header. So here's all my different customers and their customer IDs. And there's all the different days where they ordered from me. Go all the way to the bottom. And you can see down here we have our customers who have never placed an order show up with null. They don't have any order dates because they've never ordered anything from us. If we had done an inner join, it would only show us the matching rows. Okay, right? We only see matches. We don't see all of our customers. Left outer join lets us see everything from the left table, even if it doesn't have a match on the right table. Okay. Which is why we see those customers down there. Okay. What about right outer join? That's going to show us all of our orders, even if they don't have a customer number. It's kind of hard to have an order without a customer placing it, so we don't see any of those. Did I have a better example for that? I don't think I did. And if we want to see both, we can do a full outer join, which lets us see the things from both all the customers and all the order dates, even if they don't have matches from either column. All right, in the next video, I'm going to show you how to do joins with a graphical tool, with a GUI interface, so you don't have to type them by hand. You do need to understand how to do them and how to write a select statement, because in code, you're always going to need to write your queries out using SQL. However, if you're in systems SQL Server Management Studio like we are, and you're trying to build some queries, there's a graphical tool to help you. And we're going to go over that in the next